In this video, we're going to be going over how to set up the best repricing strategies when selling on Amazon. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If you're not already using FlashPricer, which is the best repricer for both Amazon and Walmart, be sure to click the link down in the description and get started with your 14-day free trial today. When it comes to setting up repricing strategies, there are a lot of different scenarios that you're going to run into when selling on marketplaces like Amazon. In addition to the listings, it also depends on how you're getting your products, whether or not you're private label, or you're sourcing wholesale or online arbitrage. So you want to take all of these into account, and you're most likely going to want to set up multiple strategies. The first step is connecting your Amazon account. So once you log into FlashPricer, you're going to go ahead and click on settings. Once you click on the settings page, it's then going to bring you up to the sales channel. You can then press connect channel, and you can go through the motions of connecting your Amazon account, and you'll know it's connected when you see this status and it says connected with the green dot. After you connect the channel, you then want to make sure all of your listings on Amazon are going to be imported, and it usually could take about 15 to 30 plus minutes, even over a couple of hours, depending on how many listings you have on Amazon. After your listings are connected, you'll then see them underneath the products page, and from here, you can go ahead and you can add the cost. You can also then add a min and max price, and you can set up strategies, which we're going to do in a second. And then you can go ahead and you can see the competition, your current price, and all of the other stats for the listing. Before FlashPricer can start repricing, you're first going to need to create a strategy, and you are going to need to add a cost, min, and max price. So this way we know the parameters of what your item is going to be repriced between. To create a strategy, you're going to click on the left-hand side and you're going to press strategies. Underneath strategies, you can see all the other strategies that you've created. So as you'll see, I have about 3 for Amazon, 2 for Walmart, and you're going to want to set up multiple strategies anyway, because there are so many scenarios that you're going to run into for all of the different listings. So you might create a liquidation strategy. You might do one where you want to go ahead and you want to match the FBA buy box. You want to do one where you're going to be competing with Amazon. Now you can create all of this within one strategy. However, you might want to be more aggressive on some, and then you might want to be more passive on others. And then as your inventory ages, or depending on the scenario, you can switch that product between those strategies. So this way that product is going to be repricing according to that strategy. To create a strategy, you're going to press new strategy. From here, you can select which marketplace you want it for. So this is going to be for Amazon. And then let's just create a standard strategy. So we're going to do standard, and you can name this whatever you want. You could be regular buy box strategy. You can name it FBA match strategy. If you want a different strategy between FBA and FBM, you can go ahead and you can set that right here. So I'm just going to put standard, and I'm going to select Amazon. And then this is going to be for resellers. If this is for private label or brand owners, you would switch that to this, but that's going to be for a separate video. Next, we have strategy settings. So this is going to be the most important page, and it's where you're going to set up everything for your strategies and your listings. Underneath strategy type, currently there is only custom. They are going to be releasing the AI for FlashPricer, which is going to be really cool. So subscribe to stay tuned. Next, you have competition. Underneath competition, this is where you're going to set up who you want to compete with. So in order to do that, we can choose the lowest price. We can choose the buy box price. This can also be lowest FBA, lowest FBM, or a specific seller. So this is where it comes into having multiple strategies, because there might be some listings where you want to compete with a specific seller only. There might be some where you want to compete on the lowest price. And again, you can set this up across multiple strategies and then set that up for your item. So let's say I want to compete against a specific seller. You can then enter in all the seller IDs that you want to compete with. Now to get the seller IDs, you're just going to go to Amazon. And after you go to a listing, you can just click on the seller's name. And then inside of the URL, you're going to see their seller ID, which is right here. So this is their seller ID. You can just copy it, go back to your strategy, and you can paste it right here. And then if you wanted to add more, just do a comma and then add that seller. Additionally, you can also find the seller ID within FlashPricer and then just copy and paste it and put it in there. So let's switch back to doing more of a standard strategy. So starting off, for your first strategy, I recommend either competing for the buy box, or if you're doing FBA, then I would compete on the lowest FBA price. So let's do the buy box price. Now from here, this is going to compete for just the buy box, regardless of if your competitor is FBA or it's Amazon or it's FBM. Now, if you want to ignore a specific type of competition or you want to ignore Amazon, then you would just select that here. So right now, the way that I currently have this set up is that this strategy is competing for the buy box price on all listings that I set it to. I am going to go ahead and I'm going to include Amazon. Now, I don't typically sell on listings where Amazon is on. However, if I am, then I do not want to ignore them. I'm going to match that buy box price. Next, I have ignore competitors with handling times higher than, etc. So I'm going to actually leave this unchecked, because if I'm matching the buy box, typically I'm going to be beating them, especially if my products are FBA. Now, if I'm doing FBM, and I want to have FBM products in this listing, I can go ahead and I can check mark that, and I can say ignore sellers that have shipping times higher than 3 days, because typically I'm going to be beating that anyways. And then I have ignore myself as competition, because if I'm on some listings, then usually I'll have both an FBM and an FBA offer on those listings. So I'm going to leave this checked. And then I have ignore specific seller IDs. If I have a specific seller who I want to ignore, maybe they're just not worth competing with, or there's a specific scenario, I can again add their seller ID right here. So this is what my standard competition looks like. I'm going to be matching on the buy box, and I really don't have anything checked. Underneath that, you have the repricing rules. So here is where you're going to set up how to reprice. So for the buy box, I am going to match. The reason is because if I'm doing FBA, I want to match the buy box, and then usually the buy box will rotate as sellers are coming in and out. Now, if you're competing against sellers who have higher stock quantities, or they've been on the listing for a while, you might not be able to actually win it from them. In that case, you might want to go ahead and you might want to create another scenario or another strategy where you're subtracting from the buy box, and you can subtract 5 cents, 10 cents, just so that you're able to win it and get started winning it. And then as you start to win on that listing, you can switch over to the main strategy, which is just matching the buy box. Next, when competition is Amazon, typically I will go ahead and I will subtract, and I will add to subtract by about $1. The reason for that is because in my experience, it's hard to win against Amazon outright. So I will just go ahead and I'll subtract by $1. Now, this is just for my standard strategy. If I'm competing against Amazon on a lot of different listings, I want to set up a custom strategy just for that, to specifically compete against Amazon and work within all of those scenarios. Next, I have when competition is FBA, so then I can go ahead and I can put match. Now you'll see that you can actually set up multiple strategies within a strategy. So coming right back here, I can say that I want to compete against the buy box, and then I can say when this is mostly for FBM or FBA, and then underneath here, I can put when competition is FBA. So you can do a general rule, and then you can add exceptions, and you can really pile this on to make a strategy as robust as possible. I'm going to leave the last one unchecked, and this is when competition is a specific seller ID. So if you have a specific seller who you want to compete with against, so you can just go and enter their seller ID, and then you can choose to subtract, add, set to min or max. So in this one, I'm just going to leave this unchecked. And then when the buy box is suppressed, typically what I will do is I will set to min. And the reason for that is because I set my minimums to be pretty high. And then this way, if the buy box is suppressed, I want the buy box to come back right away. So I will set to my minimum or until I get the buy box. And then I'll also set to algorithmically reprice. So it'll set to my minimum. And then once the buy box is unsuppressed, it will reprice up. And this way I am back to selling not only at my minimum, but a little bit higher. The last two sections are when you've acquired the buy box and when your item is out of stock. So when I've acquired the buy box, what I typically like to do for my standard strategy is algorithmically optimize my price. So this will algorithmically optimize your price usually up, which is really good because if you've won the buy box, you want the price to go up and you want your repricer to test how far you can raise your price while still maintaining the buy box. Because if you have just a standard repricer and it reprices you to $10 and it's just selling you at that price, you could actually be missing out on a ton of money. So you want a repricer that's going to be testing 11, 12, 13, even 14 or $15. So this way you might even be able to raise the price by 20 or 30% while still maintaining the buy box. And lastly, when my item is out of stock, I'll just usually set to max because this way, when my item comes back in stock, it will either just go and reprice me to be competitive. But when I do come back in stock, I'm not selling at a loss, or I'm not selling right underneath the buy box if the price has changed and it's gone all the way up. So these are my standard settings right here. This is my standard configuration. Then now we're going to go ahead and we're going to press continue to your min and max, and you can go and you can set up your min and max prices for all of your items. Next, we have setting up your min and max price. I do this manually. The reason is because it varies for item to item for me. However, if you do want a standard ROI or you have a standard margin or fixed profit, you can set it to one of those. So let's say you wanted a specific ROI. You would need to enter in all of their costs for your listings. And then you can say that you want a minimum of 20% ROI. Typically, I'll do a minimum of 30 and then a max. Again, this is going to vary for my items, but let's say across the board, you wanted a max price of 150. So this is going to be based on your ROI. And here are the examples as follows. If your item cost you $20, here is the marketplace fee, standard of 15% for Amazon. Next, you have the total cost is $24.59. So your minimum selling price would be $30.59. And your maximum would go ahead and it would be 150% of the ROI. Here is your profit at the minimum, and here is your profit at the max. So my max price would be $58.82. So again, you can build this into all of your items. As long as you have the cost, the min and max price will automatically populate. And the same can be done for a profit margin. You can add a min or a max, and you can also add a fixed profit that you want. The last little setting right here is do not reprice below map. So if you have map pricing on your items, then you can check this. And as long as you have the map listed on FlashPricer will not go below that price. It stands for minimum advertised price, and some brands or companies have this in place, meaning that any of their resellers cannot go below that price. So once you're done, just press review and save strategy. Here's everything that you have. And then once you're done, you could just press create strategy. And now you've successfully created that strategy. After you're done creating your standard strategy, head back to your item. In order to go ahead and to add your cost price, you can either do that through a single item. So you can just enter your cost right here. And then from there, it's automatically going to be saved. You can also do that through the bulk uploads by downloading your file, updating your cost, and then re-uploading it. And once all of your costs are there, if your min and max price are set to be added automatically, they'll populate. If not, then you'll have to manually add them. And next, you can go ahead and you can select your strategy that you want for that item. And once the min, max prices, and cost are added, and a strategy is selected, you'll now have your item automatically repricing. If you want to turn off an item from repricing, but you still want it tethered to that strategy, all you need to do is just uncheck it from here, and that's how you can turn it off for that specific SKU. So that's how to create repricing strategies for Amazon using FlashPricer. Again, if you'd like to try out FlashPricer with a 14-day free trial, the link is going to be in the description. And we just added a new pricing plan for $50 a month, which is going to give you access to 1,000 listings for Amazon. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.